Imagine for a moment you're looking for a shortcut. Not a shortcut to avoid learning, but a shortcut to truly understand the deep mechanics of how knowledge is acquired, how it sticks, and, most importantly, how it can be effectively shared.
Right.
We're not talking about fleeting trends or the latest educational fads, but underlying principles that have genuinely stood the test of time, principles that echo through centuries.
And today we're taking a deep dive into a remarkable text from the 19th century that offers precisely that. A profound yet incredibly practical understanding of teaching and learning.
Hmm.
What's truly fascinating is that this book, despite being written over a century ago, holds surprising and potent relevance for anyone looking to become more well-informed or perhaps to impart knowledge more effectively to others.
Yeah.
Its insights really cut through the noise of modern educational debates and, get to the heart of what makes learning stick.
That's right. Our source today is excerpts from John Milton Gregory's The Seven Laws of Teaching, a book first published way back in 1886.
Wow, 1886.
Yeah, and this isn't just some dusty old book you'd find in an antique shop. It's a foundational text that outlines universal principles for successful instruction that are still reverberating today, perhaps more so than ever.
And what's particularly fascinating about the edition we're exploring, published by Veritas Press in 2004, is its own intriguing journey.
Wow.
Well, Gregory's original work was deeply rooted in a strong theological and Christian foundation, but then a significant revision in 1917 by two University of Illinois professors largely stripped out these foundational elements.
So they secularized it.
Effectively, yes, for a new era, presumably. And it wasn't until 2002 that the original unabridged version was rediscovered and meticulously restored,
Wow.
offering what one author beautifully described as the difference between skim milk and whole milk, a much richer, more complete understanding of Gregory's profound insights. It reveals the holistic vision he truly held for education.
Skim milk versus whole milk. I like that.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack Gregory's timeless wisdom, to discover these seven laws, and, most importantly, to understand how they apply directly to your learning journey.
Exactly.
Whether you're a teacher, a manager preparing for an important meeting, or just someone inherently curious who wants to gain knowledge quickly and thoroughly, these principles are gold.
There really are.
We're going to extract the core nuggets and surprising facts that make this wisdom so potent and applicable even today. Let's get started.
Okay.
The Enduring Wisdom of John Milton Gregory, a portrait of a progressive educator.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we dive headfirst into these seven laws, it's really helpful to understand the man behind them, John Milton Gregory.
Right.
He was no armchair theorist simply musing about education. His entire life was a testament to varied experiences and a deep, abiding commitment to the power of learning and teaching.
Absolutely. His biography isn't just a list of achievements, it's a living demonstration of his own pedagogical principles.
So who was he?
Indeed. Gregory was born in 1822 in Sand Lake, New York, and his path was anything but linear, which I find fascinating because it directly informed his comprehensive view of learning.
Hmm?
He actually started teaching at the remarkably young age of 17.
17, wow.
Yeah. Then he ventured into law for 2 years before realizing his true calling lay elsewhere. His spiritual journey led him to become a Baptist clergyman.
Okay.
Yet, even that wasn't his final destination. By 1852, his natural aptitude for guiding young minds won out, and he found his true calling as the superintendent of a classical school in Detroit, Michigan.
So he kept coming back to education?
He did,
Mm-hmm.
and his administrative and teaching skills there were so impressive that he quickly ascended to Michigan State Superintendent of Public Instruction in 1858,
Mm-hmm.
a post he was reelected to twice more
Mm-hmm.
because of his exceptional work and the reforms he implemented.
And his most significant contribution, the one that truly cemented his legacy, came next, right?
That's right. He became the first president of the Illinois State Industrial University in 1867.
Which we now know as.
The University of Illinois. He served for 13 years, laying the solid foundation for what is now a major research institution.
And he wasn't just guiding. The outline says he was learning alongside his students.
Exactly, embodying the very principles he would later articulate. His influence even extended globally. He served as a U.S. Commissioner to major world's fairs in Vienna and Paris, and on the U.S. Civil Service Commission.
So this was a man of immense practical experience.
Absolutely, which gave him a unique vantage point on how education intersects with real-world application.
That broad real-world experience seems critical.
It is. because it deeply informs his philosophical approach to educating children, which goes far beyond mere methodology. It's not just about what to teach, but how to foster genuine intellectual growth.
And his masterwork, The 7 Laws of Teaching, it was initially written for Sunday school teachers.
That's right, which underscores his profound love for teaching and the Word of God, as the source mentions. It's a testament to his values that he even asked to be buried at the University of Illinois, showing his deep, lasting connection to the institution he had built from the ground up, not just as an administrator, but as a passionate educator.
Okay, so the source material explicitly links Gregory's work to classical methodology. Now, for those of us who might not be immersed in educational theory, what exactly does that mean?
Right.
And why is this 19th century text so incredibly influential in modern classical Christian schooling today? It seems like an unlikely connection.
Well, it's fascinating how his work bridges historical and contemporary educational thought. Doug Wilson, a prominent author in classical education, points out that Gregory reminds us to seek an understanding of underlying principles, rather than just focusing on transient methods.
Principles over methods.
Exactly, which resonates with the classical approach's emphasis on timeless truths over fleeting trends. And Tom Garfield, superintendent of Logos School, goes as far as to say that few books have influenced classical Christian schooling over the past 25 years more than the 7 Laws of Teaching.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It is. This isn't just historical curiosity. It's current, practical impact, showing its enduring relevance.
So it's about moving beyond simply what to teach and how to teach it, to really grasping the deeper whys behind effective instruction.
Precisely. It's the philosophy that makes the method powerful, a shift from technique to fundamental truth.
Okay.
And Gregory's insights, honed both as an educator and as a Christian, genuinely breathe new life into stale debates about methods and metrics.
How so?
Well, for instance, he understood that children grow and change at identifiable levels, long before Dorothy Sayers' influential 1947 treatise, The Lost Tools of Learning, popularized the idea.
Interesting. So he was ahead of his time there.
You could say that.
Yeah.
This means advocating for teaching styles and content that consider the levels to make the most of the instruction time. You're meeting the student where they are developmentally,
Well, right, instead of forcing them into a mold.
Exactly. Not trying to force them into a predefined mold. This is about efficiency and respecting the natural progression of the human mind.
And this also includes a strong emphasis on integration and sequencing of material, connecting new knowledge to old.
Right, which naturally leads to a deeper versus just broad understanding. It's about doing more with less, building a cohesive web of knowledge rather than just accumulating isolated facts.
So building a strong, interconnected mental framework.
Perfectly put. And finally, Gregory's laws provide quantifiable means for evaluating a teacher's skills and success.
Quantifiable? How?
Well, in a field that can sometimes feel subjective, these laws offer a fixed beacon for instruction. They help both administrators and teachers measure their effectiveness.
A framework for evaluation.
Yes, they give us a clear framework, not just for what to do, but for how to measure for doing it well, providing a path for continuous improvement and excellence.
Decoding education training versus teaching.
Gregory begins his profound exploration of education with a beautifully simple yet powerful directive. He asks us to place a little child in our midst and simply observe.
Yeah, it's a striking image.
It is. It's an invitation to step back and learn from the very essence of human development. What can we, as curious learners, truly glean about education from this seemingly straightforward act?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Gregory is setting a foundational premise for all education. He highlights 2 key facts about an infant right at the start.
Okay.
First, an infant is but a germ, meaning it's immature, not yet fully grown or developed. It possesses immense potential, but not full realization.
Right. Potential not yet realized.
And second, an infant is ignorant. It's without acquired ideas, a blank slate in terms of formal knowledge. These aren't judgments, of course, but objective observations that inform his entire approach.
So based on these 2 fundamental facts, immaturity and ignorance, Gregory argues that 2 core notions of education emerge.
The development of powers and the acquisition of knowledge.
Okay, developing powers and acquiring knowledge. It's not one or the other, right?
Exactly. Both working in tandem, like 2 sides of the same coin. Education isn't just filling a bucket, it's also about sharpening the tools to fill it.
And corresponding to these 2 notions.
We find 2 distinct branches of the art of education: training and teaching.
Training and teaching. How does he define them?
Training, in Gregory's view, is the systematic development and cultivation of the powers of mind and body. This means giving each power regular exercise in its proper sphere until, through consistent effort and growth, it reaches full strength and skill.
So building capacity.
Yes, this can encompass physical, mental, or moral training. It's about building capacity, refining innate abilities. Think of an athlete honing their skills. That's training,
Got it. And then there's teaching.
which is specifically the systematic inculcation of knowledge. But it's vital to understand that for Gregory, teaching isn't just about cramming facts or names into a memory bank.
Right, it's more than that.
Much more. The primary goal of teaching, according to him, is to communicate knowledge that is useful for gaining other knowledge, to stimulate in the pupil the love of learning, and crucially, to form habits of independent study.
Fostering lifelong learners.
Precisely. It's about equipping the student to continue learning on their own, to become a lifelong, self-directed learner.
Okay, so training develops powers, teaching imparts knowledge, but he says they aren't really separable in practice.
Right. While separable in thought, training and teaching are, in Gregory's view, not separable in practice.
Which raises the question.
Why distinguish them if they're intertwined? The reality is you train by teaching, and you teach best when you train best. The exercise of intellectual powers, for instance, is inherently found in acquiring, elaborating, and applying knowledge.
One fuels the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a dancer learning steps, knowledge, and simultaneously strengthening their muscles. Training.
That's a really sharp distinction, but it makes me wonder, if they're so intertwined in practice, why did Gregory insist on separating training and teaching in theory? What's the practical benefit for us?
Great question. He argued it was crucial for teachers to watch more easily and estimate more intelligently the real progress of his pupils.
For assessment.
Yes. It's about avoiding two common pitfalls. On one hand, the dry daily drill that keeps pupils busy, but without true advance in knowledge. Busy work, essentially.
Right.
On the other, it prevents merely cramming the memory with useless facts without genuinely increasing the powers of thought and understanding.
So you need to track both.
We need to note both the increase of power and the advance in knowledge to truly gauge progress. Without this distinction, we might mistake activity for achievement.
Okay, that makes sense. So Gregory's central aim for this book is precisely that.
To explain the laws of teaching, to directly instruct teachers in their art. He sees teaching not as an abstract, unpredictable endeavor, but as a process where definite forces are employed to produce definite effects.
Like science?
Following principles as regularly and certainly as the day follows the sun. This perspective elevates teaching to a scientific art, grounded in discoverable, repeatable laws. It takes some of the mystery out of it, making it accessible to anyone willing to master these principles.
So the 7 laws of teaching, an essential blueprint.
Gregory makes a powerful claim right off the bat, asserting that teaching has its natural laws as fixed as the laws of circling planets or of growing organisms.
It's a bold claim, isn't it?
It really is. For something we often think of as a soft skill, an art, or even just a calling, it suggests a scientific rigor to education, almost a natural order to how minds acquire knowledge.
What's fascinating here is his reasoning. He argues that no effect in mind or matter, but is produced in conformity with law. Therefore, what the teacher does, he does through natural agencies.
Cause and effect in learning.
Yes, it implies a cause and effect relationship in the learning process that is predictable if understood. This means that if you understand these laws, you can reliably produce the desired effect. True learning.
So it's about helping another person reproduce the same knowledge in their own mind, not just transmitting something.
Right, not just pouring water from one glass to another. It's an active internal process of recreation.
And to discover these fixed laws, Gregory analyzes a complete act of teaching into 7 distinct elements.
7 distinct elements, yes, each with its own great law of function or action. These 7 elements, when taken together, constitute the 7 laws of teaching.
A complete system.
Exactly. This holistic view is what makes his framework so comprehensive and enduring. They cover every aspect of the teaching-learning dynamic.
And what you might ask are these 7 fundamental factors that create this complete act of teaching. Gregory lays them out with striking clarity.
He does. First, the teacher, the one who knows the lesson thoroughly.
Okay.
Second, the learner, the one who attends with genuine interest.
Interest is key.
Third, language, the common medium of communication understood by both.
Makes sense.
Fourth, the lesson, the specific truth or fact to be taught.
The content.
Fifth, the teaching process, the active guiding role of the teacher.
How?
Sixth, the learning process, the internal self-driven work of the learner.
The student's part.
And finally, number 7, review, the crucial completion test and confirmation of what has been learned.
Review. Often overlooked. Okay, so those are the elements. And then Gregory takes these abstract concepts and makes them incredibly practical, stating these laws as direct, actionable rules for any teacher.
He does. He distills these profound principles into 7 actionable directives. The first, know thoroughly and familiarly the lesson you wish to teach. Teach from a full mind and clear understanding.
Sounds obvious, right?
It does. But Gregory unpacks why this isn't just about having facts. It's about possessing knowledge so vividly it demands to be shared, almost overflowing from you.
That's a powerful idea.
This insight alone challenges the notion that mere memorization makes one a teacher.
Okay, what's the second rule?
Gain and keep the attention and interest of the pupils upon the lesson. Refuse to teach without attention.
Refuse to teach without it. Strong words. Then for communication.
Use words understood by both teacher and pupil in the same sense. Language should be clear and vivid alike to both.
Clear and common language. And for starting any new topic?
Begin with what is already well known to the pupil. Proceed to the unknown by single, easy, natural steps. Build on the foundation.
Right, the known to the unknown. Okay, so those are the first 4. What about the next 3?
The next 3 laws focus on the active engagement of the learner and the consolidation of knowledge. 5th, use the pupil's own mind, exciting his self-activities. Make him a discoverer of truth.
Make him a discoverer. I like that. 6th,
require the pupil to reproduce in thought the lesson he is learning, thinking it out in his own language. Not just repeating, but rephrasing.
internalizing it. And finally, number 7.
A timeless rule often neglected. Review, review, review. Reproducing correctly. Deepening impression, correcting false views.
Review, review, review. Can't stress it enough.
These aren't just suggestions, you see. They're the gears of the learning machine in his view.
And Gregory insists that these rules underlie and govern all successful teaching. They're universal, right?
Universal. Whether you're a college professor or a common schoolmaster, teaching arithmetic or a deep Bible truth, this universality is key to their timeless appeal.
Making them relevant across any subject or context.
Right, but this raises an important question that Gregory preempts. Doesn't following rules make teaching cold, mechanical?
Yeah, does it stifle creativity or passion?
He addresses this directly. He argues that true skill kindles and keeps alive enthusiasm by giving it success.
Ah, so skill fuels enthusiasm.
Exactly. Enthusiasm, when guided by intelligence and armed with skill, accomplishes far more than unbridled passion alone. He even cites Pestalozzi, a renowned enthusiast, who sometimes did poorer work when his enthusiasm wasn't guided by skill.
Interesting. So passion is amplified, not diminished, by mastery of these laws.
It gives your passion a pathway to impact, a way to actually achieve results.
This includes Sunday school teaching, which Gregory seems particularly passionate about.
Very much so. He argues strongly against the notion that Sunday school is just about impress and convert, not instruct.
He wants rigor there, too.
He insists that the great natural laws of teaching are God's own laws of mind, which must be followed as faithfully in learning his word as in studying his works. He's equating spiritual learning with any other rigorous academic pursuit in terms of the process.
Demanding the same intellectual rigor.
Right. The ability to impart truth effectively, to plant there with sure hand some truth, or some grand and life-giving belief, comes directly from mastering these laws.
He calls them electric lines.
Yes, the electric lines by which you may send into each little mind the thought fresh from your own. It's a powerful analogy.
It really is. It suggests that these laws are the conduits for profound intellectual and emotional connection, making them not just rules, but pathways to transformation.
Diving deeper into the first 4 laws.
Let's really dig into these now, starting with Law 5, the law of the teacher. Gregory's first law is deceptively simple. The teacher must know that which he would teach.
Seems obvious.
It does, right? Like saying a chef needs to know how to cook. But what's the deeper truth here that Gregory wants us to grasp beyond mere factual knowledge?
Well, what's fascinating here is that Gregory doesn't just state the obvious. He challenges us. How can something come out of nothing, or how can darkness give light?
Right.
He then flips the truism to reveal a deeper truth. What the teacher knows, he must teach.
He must teach.
Yes, he identifies an inborn need and desire in man for expression, a teaching passion that forces speech, once a truth becomes vivid and intense in one's own mind.
So it's not just possession of knowledge, but the compulsion to share it.
Exactly, a bubbling over of understanding that demands articulation.
So it's not enough to simply have knowledge. You need to possess it so thoroughly, so vividly that it demands to be shared.
Right. And Gregory suggests knowledge isn't a single on-off switch, but a spectrum,
A spectrum.
ranging from faintly recognizing a fact to the highest grade where one vividly sees a truth in its deeper significance and wider relations, where it impresses and inspires you.
So a deep, interconnected understanding, not just isolated data points.
Precisely. And this highest degree of knowledge is what truly enables effective teaching. It's the source of the power of illustration, which Gregory calls that chief and central power in the teacher's art.
The power of illustration. Why is that so central?
Because without it, the unknowing teacher is the blind trying to lead the blind with only an empty lamp to light the way. He gives a powerful example how geography, when seen by a half-taught teacher, seems tame. But it's grand and imposing as seen by the great astronomers, geologists, and geographers, the Herschels, Danas, and Gayots.
The experts see the big picture.
They don't just know facts. They see the vast interconnected systems behind them, transforming the subject into a vibrant, living reality. They teach not just the map, but the majesty of the earth.
This deep, almost revelatory knowledge also rouses into higher action all the powers of the teacher, giving them unfettered command of their material.
It empowers them,
Yeah.
and it builds the pupil's confidence, which is vital. As he says, children instinctively object to being taught by one whom they have found to be ignorant.
Kids know.
They do. And crucially, it inspires a love of study, transforming what might be common truths into radiant realities, because the teacher himself is radiating that truth and passion.
So what are the practical rules he gives for teachers here?
He offers several. First, always prepare each lesson by fresh study, because last year's knowledge has necessarily faded. Keep it current.
Good point.
Second, study until thoughts take shape in familiar language, because the final proof and product of clear thought is clear speech. Clarity is key.
Clear thought, clear speech.
And perhaps most profoundly, master some truths well. He says, better to know one truth well than to know 100 imperfectly.
Depth over breadth. That raises an important question for us today, doesn't it?
It really does. In an age of information overload, are we prioritizing breadth over depth in our own learning? Are we settling for surface-level familiarity when true understanding demands a deep dive?
Something to think about. But the pitfalls, or violations, as Gregory calls them, they're real too.
Unfortunately, yes. These include neglecting preparation, because pupils are ignorant anyway, a terrible attitude,
Yeah.
assuming it's only the pupil's job to study, or covering up lazy ignorance by some pompous pretense of learning, using jargon to mask a lack of understanding.
We've all seen that.
Gregory warns that these teachers are essentially messengers without a message. Sadly familiar even today, where information is abundant, but true knowledge feels rare sometimes.
Messengers without a message. Okay, let's move on to Law 2. The law of the learner. The learner must attend with interest to the fact or truth to be learned.
Right.
Again, seems straightforward, almost intuitive, but what makes it so profound in Gregory's framework that it deserves to be a law?
Well, Gregory calls interested attention the one essential condition on which all learning is possible. He describes attention not as a passive state, but as a mental attitude of effort and exertion.
Effort and exertion.
Yes, a willpower marshaling all the faculties of the mind. It's an active engagement, a deliberate focus. Without it, nothing truly penetrates.
He draws a really important distinction here between compelled attention and attracted attention.
He does. Compelled attention is cold, mechanical, and powerless. Think of a child studying a task with no pleasure, maybe out of obligation.
Just going through the motions.
Exactly. It's short-lived and easily exhausted. But attracted attention springs from desire. It's living and full of power, making the mind eager to grasp and possess its object.
Like the boy reading a story for hours.
Precisely. Reading a captivating story for hours without weariness. The goal for the teacher is always to transform that compelled attention into attracted attention.
Move from obligation to genuine engagement.
Yes. And from a philosophical perspective, Gregory repeats that knowledge cannot be passed, like apples from one basket to another. Ideas have to be rethought by the receiving mind.
Okay.
The pupil must think, and this thinking absolutely requires attention. Knowledge is inseparable from the act of knowing. If the power of knowing is small, actual knowledge will also be small.
You can't just passively absorb.
You must actively engage your mind. He argues that the mind is a self-acting power. Without motive, no will. Without will, no attention. Without attention, no perception.
It's a chain reaction.
And the vigor of mental action is proportion to the feeling which inspires it. It's an internal combustion engine that needs fuel, that needs motivation.
So if attention is key, how do we ignite this crucial interest? What are Gregory's sources of interest?
He details several. Appealing to the senses, a bright ribbon, a strange object for infants, or the shock of change, a sudden pause, a picture, a new idea striking like a blow.
Anything that breaks the pattern.
Yes, anything that jars the mind out of its lethargy.
And he emphasizes skillful questions.
Crucially, but not sham questions from a book that merely asks for repetition. He means questions with the element of the unexpected, surprising the mind and calling for new thought.
That raises a good question for all of us, not just teachers. How often do we ask questions that truly challenge and stimulate rather than just check for recall?
Are we provoking genuine thought or just fishing for pre-programmed answers? It's a vital distinction.
What other sources of interest does he mention?
Appealing to mental appetites like imagination, curiosity, and reason. Connecting the lesson to the learner's past life or future duties, making it relevant.
Relevance is huge.
And the contagious sympathetic interest that stems from the teacher's own manifests delight in the subject. Enthusiasm is infectious.
Yeah, the teacher's passion can be a spark.
Absolutely. He also notes that interest naturally varies with age. The younger the pupils, the briefer the lesson, because their power of attention is limited.
Makes sense.
The power of attention increases with mental development, which is why little and often is the rule for young children.
And he cites Creasy's observation about children's questions.
Yes, that profound observation about the natural progression. What is that? Leading to what is there in it? Then who made it? And finally, what do they do with it?
From observation to purpose?
Exactly. This natural inquiry, Gregory argues, should guide teaching, indicating how minds naturally seek deeper understanding.
What are the main hindrances to attention?
Apathy and distraction, according to Gregory. And when these appear due to fatigue or illness, the wise teacher will not attempt to force the lesson.
Sometimes you just need to pause.
Right. You can't pour into a mind that's not open. Sometimes the best thing to do is pause and reset.
So, key rules for teachers from this law.
Never begin a class exercise till attention is secured. Pause whenever attention is interrupted. And fundamentally, the teacher must maintain in himself and exhibit the closest attention and the most genuine interest. Lead by example.
Violations, sadly, are common.
And often fatal to learning. Beginning lessons before attention is gained, or droning on with no keen and stirring demand for all the powers of the pupils to rush to action. These mistakes create classrooms where learning is a chore, not a joy.
Where minds are dulled, not awakened. Okay, law third, the law of the language. The language used in teaching must be common to teacher and learner. What does he mean by common here? More than just speaking English, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Gregory means it must be a true language to each ear, to him that hears as well as to him that speaks, with the same meaning to both, clear in sense and clearly understood.
Shared meaning.
Yes. He explains that words are artificial signs with no inherent likeness to what they signify. Their meaning comes from what we collectively give them. This highlights the subjective and learned nature of meaning. It's about shared mental models, not just shared sounds.
This reveals a crucial point. No one has more language than he has learned.
Exactly. A teacher may know 10,000 words, but a child might only know hundreds. The teacher, therefore, must come within this narrow circuit of signs and thoughts.
Meet them where they are linguistically.
Otherwise, their language is as unmeaning to the child as if it were mere drum taps. It's not about complex vocabulary. It's about shared understanding.
Like that example of the child confused by the wicked flea whom no man pursueth.
Precisely. Because they don't grasp the archaic meaning. The teacher, knowing all meanings, often assumes the pupil understands, but they can be stopped by great gaps in the sense. Misunderstandings abound.
Gregory compares this to the American traveler shouting English in Europe.
Yes. Completely ineffective, just like a teacher ignoring what a student already knows or the words they already understand. The true communication power is measured by what the hearer understands and reproduces.
Not just what the speaker says.
Exactly. Words that are rich to the educated are poor and weak to the young and ignorant. This raises an important question. How often do we as speakers truly check for comprehension, rather than just assuming our words land as intended? Do we adjust our language?
And language isn't just a vehicle for thought, like a cart.
Right. Not just a cart carrying goods. It's more like telegram wires, conveying signals that the receiver must retranslate and assemble into meaning.
Retranslate. Interesting.
And the act of giving full and clear expression to one's thoughts helps those thoughts disentangle passing o'er the lip. This is why Gregory boldly states, talking is thinking.
Talking is thinking.
But this talking must be original, not parrot-like repetition. The child must wrestle with the ideas to put them into their own words, to truly own them.
And he reminds us about the language of things, too.
Yes, beyond spoken words. The eloquence of the eye, gestures, and especially the parables of Jesus drawn from nature. Effective teaching uses all available channels.
So the core rules for teachers flowing from this law.
Learn what words your pupil uses and their meanings. Express your thoughts as far as possible in the pupil's words. Use the simplest and fewest words in short sentences. Keep it simple.
And crucially,
when it is necessary to teach a new word, give the idea before the word. The concept comes before the label. Build the house before you name the rooms.
Concept before label. Got it. The violations here seem pretty stark.
They are. Pompous pretense of learning, hiding ignorance with a cloud of verbiage, or simply telling without ensuring comprehension, often blaming the student.
Right. If the children do not understand, it must be from hopeless stupidity.
Terrible. Gregory provides that strong example of the legislator-preacher asking reform school boys about customary elements of swine and digestive apparatus of the genus Homo.
Instead of just asking about pig food and human digestion.
Exactly. It highlights the fatal error of assuming knowledge rather than establishing shared understanding. He laments the low vocabulary of many, emphasizing that if we would teach children successfully, we must deepen and widen this channel of communication between our minds and theirs.
Deepen and widen the channel.
Especially for high spiritual themes in Sunday school, words must be clear as plate glass, luminous as light itself, leaving no room for ambiguity. Communication must be precise.
Okay, Law 4, the law of the lesson. The lesson to be learned must be explicable in the terms of truth already known by the learner. The unknown must be explained by the known.
Building blocks again.
Yes, it immediately sounds like constructing knowledge layer by layer.
Absolutely. Gregory places this law at the very core of the teacher's work. It's about taking what is unknown and making it known, not just as information, but as an active force, an inspiring principle in the mind.
Transforming data into usable understanding.
Creating a new mental landscape from familiar terrain. The philosophy is straightforward, yet profound. All teaching must begin at some point, at that which is seen or known by the learner.
Start where they are.
If a subject is entirely new, you have to make a known point by showing likeness to something familiar. Find an anchor. Till this starting point in the familiar is found, he knows it is useless to go on.
You need that anchor point.
But this also means you shouldn't confine students too long to familiar ground under the fallacious plea of thoroughness, which can deaden his power of attention.
Don't get stuck there.
Right. Learning must proceed by some steps, linking facts and truths, where the known explains the nearest unknown. He uses that powerful analogy of a lighted torch driving back darkness, where each known truth illuminates the next unknown.
That raises a good question. Are we giving our learners enough credit to move on when they've grasped the basics?
Or do we dwell too long on the familiar, making learning tedious? It's a balancing act.
What's fascinating is how Gregory connects this to the very act of knowing itself.
Yes, the very act of knowing is an act of comparing and judging, and one of the terms under comparison always belongs to the known. We interpret new experiences by constantly comparing them to our existing framework.
Like a child asking, what is it like?
Exactly. When confronted with something new, it's how we make sense of the world, by fitting new information into established mental categories.
And this law is the origin of figures of speech, metaphors, parables.
That's what Gregory states. They are so many attempts to reach the unknown through the known. And conversely, the unknown cannot be explained by the unknown.
Can't explain stars without teaching astronomy first.
Precisely, because the explanatory framework isn't there. He draws that vivid parallel again to the American traveler shouting loud English in Europe.
Making the same blunder as a teacher ignoring prior knowledge.
You have to start from where they are. And the mind prefers to use its clearest knowledge for interpretation. A botanist gets excited by a new plant, not a new stone.
Because it fits their existing mental schema.
Right. This bent of preference is both a strength, allowing deep specialization, and a potential prejudice, shutting eyes to truths outside one's accustomed field. Our knowledge structures empower and limit us.
So the practical roles derived from this are critical.
Yes. Find what your pupil knows of the subject. Begin with facts that lie next, by single steps from the familiar. And crucially, incite the pupil to use his knowledge to find or explain other knowledge,
Elevate them from receiver to discoverer.
to an active discoverer and problem solver.
Violations of this law lead to profound problems.
Indeed. Setting young pupils to strange lessons without preparation. Failing to connect new lessons to old. Treating past knowledge as stored away instead of an instrument of fresh learning.
Not activating prior knowledge.
Right, or assigning lessons that are too long, leading to imperfect knowledge, or failing to make each step thoroughly understood. The result:
Knowledge that is poor, fragmentary, and fleeting.
leaving people with scattered bits rather than a grand whole of understanding, like a pile of broken glass instead of a magnificent mirror, as you said.
The dynamics of learning and teaching processes.
So we've explored the teacher side, language, the lesson, but what about the learner's internal process? How does the mind truly internalize something new? Gregory's fifth law, the law of the teaching process, shifts the focus squarely onto the teacher's active role in that process.
Right, how the teacher facilitates the internal work.
Its core idea is that teaching means arousing and using the pupil's mind to form in it a desired conception or thought. This means, as Gregory has stressed before, knowledge cannot be passed from mind to mind like apples from one basket to another.
It must be recognized, rethought by the receiving mind.
Recognized. That's key.
This is a fundamental concept for Gregory, and perhaps one of his most profound. All external acts of teaching, all telling, explaining, illustrating, are useless except as they serve to excite and direct the pupil's voluntary mental powers.
Useless unless they spark something inside.
Exactly. The maxim, wake up the mind, is paramount. He goes as far as to say he teaches best who teaches least, or better still, he teaches most whose pupils learn most without his teaching.
Wow. That sounds counterintuitive. Teach less to teach more.
It implies the teacher is a catalyst, a guide, a provocateur, not merely a dispenser of facts. They are igniting an internal fire, facilitating the student's own learning process.
The teacher as a sympathizing guide.
Who directs efforts and saves time, but fundamentally cannot change nature's mode of mind work. The eye must do its own seeing, the mind its own thinking.
He shares that story about the boy and the globe. Yes, I learned it, but I never knew it.
A perfect illustration of the forcing process that separates superficial learning from true internalized knowing. Memorization versus understanding.
And confidence comes from.
Self-prompted, voluntary, and independent use of these powers. This is about self-efficacy, a concept that resonates strongly even today, building the student's belief in their own ability to learn.
The mind needs excitants to get moving.
Yes, external ones like bright colors for young children, or internal ones like a compelling thought or feeling for older learners. This connects to the two main springs of interest he identifies.
Which are?
Love of knowledge as a mental satisfaction, learning for its own sake, driven by curiosity and joy, and desire of knowledge as a means of obtaining other satisfactions, for livelihood, reward, or to avoid punishment. Extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation.
And he prefers intrinsic.
He asserts that the former leads to true, lasting learning, while the latter's strength depends on the need and often ceases when the external task is done. Which kind of learner are you, he might ask?
He also introduces the moral intellect.
Yes, arguing that teaching cannot be divorced from morals, as intellect and sensibilities are intimate and indissoluble. He makes a powerful case that the Sunday school, being openly religious, should be the most successful school, as it can dominate, inspire, and consecrate all other education by appealing to the moral and spiritual nature.
Not just facts, but character.
Exactly, shaping character and purpose through knowledge.
This entire law is summarized by Milton's quote, "The mind is its own place."
Beautifully put. The teacher's role is not to fill this place, but to furnish materials and, most importantly, question.
Questioning is key again.
Gregory calls questioning the true stimulant of the human mind, and provocatively states it is the whole of teaching.
The whole of teaching, that's strong.
Because an explanation that settles everything and ends all questions ends also all thinking. The scientific spirit is the spirit of tireless inquiry, always seeking new questions, always pushing the boundaries.
Keep the questions coming. So the major violation of this law is?
The teacher's attempt to force lessons into people's minds by simply telling, just lecturing without engagement.
Right.
Gregory laments, "Poor teacher, can you not remember that knowing comes by thinking, not by telling?"
Thinking, not telling.
Other mistakes include complaining of memory when there was no thought behind the learning, and requiring hurried recitations that lead to superficial and impractical knowledge.
Knowledge learned just for the test.
Exactly. Learned for prompt recall, but not truly inwardly digested. It's the difference between memorizing a formula and understanding its underlying principles.
Okay, now for Law 6, the law of the learning process. This focuses squarely on the pupil's internal side. Learning is thinking into one's own understanding a new idea or truth.
It's the pupil's active role now, using their self-activities and getting his lesson.
Self-activities.
This is a critical distinction for Gregory. It's not just memorizing or repeating. It's the formation by the learner in his own mind of the conceptions contained in the lesson learned.
Forming their own conceptions.
Learning, in his view, is a rediscovery, where the learner rediscovers in part the truth he learns and must add much to the lesson he studies.
Add much. How so?
By connecting it to their own experiences, their own prior knowledge, making it their own. The aim is to move from being a learner at others' feet to becoming an independent searcher of truth. You don't just receive, you create your own understanding.
Gregory outlines 5 crucial stages of learning here, like 5 windows of increasing size.
Yes, each pouring fuller light upon the lesson. It starts superficially with memorizing words, but quickly moves to clear understanding of the thought.
Okay.
Then translating into one's own words, which he calls the beginning of discovering.
Putting it in your own words is discovery.
From there, it progresses to seeking evidences or proofs, providing a reason for the faith, encouraging investigation.
Yeah.
Why is this true?
Critical thinking.
And finally, the highest and most fruitful stage, studying the uses and applications of knowledge, connecting knowledge to real life. How can I use this?
Application makes it stick.
He argues that no lesson is learned to its full and rich ending till it is traced to its connections with the great working machinery of nature and of life.
Connected to the real world.
For example, the boy who finds a use for his lesson becomes doubly interested and successful. And again, better one subject so learned than a whole curriculum skimmed with lighter study. Depth and application over a superficial breadth.
These stages are limited by the learner's age and the kind of knowledge.
Of course. And again, Creasy's observations on a child's evolving questions, what is that? What is there in it? Who made it? What do they do with it? Are brought back.
Why here?
Because they perfectly highlight how thinking faculties develop, guiding the learning process naturally. These questions chart a course from simple observation to practical application, mirroring the 5 stages of learning itself.
Ah, the questions match the stages. That's neat. Practical rules for teachers in this phase.
Help the pupil form a clear idea of the work. Ask him to express the meaning in his own words, persisting till he has the whole thought. Don't let them off easy.
Right.
And crucially, perpetually ask reason why, teaching the pupil to give a reason for their opinions, not just state facts. Foster that critical thinking.
Always ask why.
And inculcate a profound regard for truth as noble, enduring, and divine, and teach the pupil to hate all falsehoods, sophistries, and shams. Build intellectual integrity.
Common violations here.
Leaving the pupil in twilight of an imperfect knowledge due to haste, insisting on book language without genuine understanding, failure to insist on original thinking, not asking for reasons, and persistently neglecting the applications of knowledge.
So learning stays theoretical, abstract.
Exactly. This leads to people being always learning but never able to come to a knowledge of the truth. A potent warning from Gregory about the futility of learning without genuine understanding and practical application. Fleeting knowledge.
The capstone of knowledge, the law of review.
Finally, we arrive at the capstone, the 7th and last law. Law 7th, the law of review. Gregory states that the completion, test, and confirmation of teaching must be made by reviews.
The grand finale.
Why is review, which often feels like a chore, so incredibly important to Gregory? Why isn't learning done once you've gone through the material?
Well, Gregory emphatically states that no time in teaching is spent more profitably than that spent in reviewing.
More profitably.
He outlines its 3 crucial aims. First, to perfect knowledge. Second, to confirm knowledge. And third, to render knowledge ready and useful.
Perfect, confirm, make useful.
These 3 aims, though distinct, are secured by the same process, highlighting the integrated nature of true learning. It's not just about recalling, it's about refining, solidifying, and making accessible.
And a review is something more than a repetition.
Yes, it's rethinking of a thought, involving fresh conceptions and new associations. When you first study a lesson, its novelties dazzle the mind.
Like entering a strange house.
Exactly his analogy. You see the parts, but you need to return again and again to truly see the full plan and understand its uses, to grasp the relationships between rooms and how they function together.
That makes sense. Like rereading a good book.
Precisely. This is why rereading familiar books yields new insights, and the ripest student of Shakespeare finds most of freshness in the works of the great dramatist. He gives that powerful example of varying emphasis when rereading, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth," how shifting the stress unlocks a world of meaning.
Repetition reveals depth.
It can. Jesus himself used repetition, asking Peter 3 times, "Lovest thou me?" to deepen the impression and ensure full understanding.
Reviews, especially when spaced over time, change the viewpoint.
Absolutely. At every review, we survey the lesson from a new standpoint. Like climbing a mountain, each successive view is larger, more comprehensive, and more complete. You gain new perspectives as your knowledge base expands.
Integrating the new with the old in richer ways.
Right. Gregory also talks about mental incubation, or what we might call unconscious cerebration today.
The brain working in the background.
Essentially, yes. Processing information, working out new truths from learned facts, even when you're not actively thinking about them. A fresh experience or newly acquired idea serves as a key to the old lesson, clarifying what was previously dark.
That happens all the time.
It does. He also notes the power conferred by frequent reviews, citing the old saying, "Beware of the man of one book."
Meaning someone who knows one thing really, really well.
Exactly. A person who has mastered one subject thoroughly through repeated study, gaining a profound depth of insight.
And memory itself. Review is crucial there too.
Absolutely critical. Memory requires frequent repetitions as the essential condition of its retentive holding. A lesson studied once is quickly forgotten.
Use it or lose it.
Pretty much. A thoroughly and repeatedly reviewed lesson is woven into the very fabric of our thoughts and becomes a part of our permanent knowledge. What a pupil permanently remembers is the true measure of their advance.
Not just what they recited once.
That's the difference between temporary recall and lasting wisdom.
And knowledge for use needs review.
Like coin for daily traffic or tools for daily work, it requires frequent and thorough reviews. This builds skill in scholarship, which depends on habit, and habit is the child of repetition.
Repetition builds habit. Habit builds skill.
Even maxims and proverbs gain influence from repetition, becoming ingrained principles that guide thought and action.
So Gregory concludes, review is essential.
One of the 7 essential conditions of all true teaching. Not to review is to leave the work half done, to allow knowledge to fade out with the passing hour. It rests on universal and unchangeable laws of mind, making it indispensable, not optional.
How should review be done? Does it vary?
Necessarily, by subject and age. Fresh applications for math, new specimens for science, new questions for history, new applications to the heart for scripture. Any exercise that recalls the truth works.
Make it active.
Yes. Applying knowledge to practical use is a best and most practical form of review. He stresses the value of pen and pencil work for reviews. Lists, tables, maps, short written statements, especially valuable for Bible lessons, which he clearly valued highly.
Practical rules for teachers on review.
Count reviews as always in order. Don't treat them as an afterthought. Have set times for reviews, like a brief review of the preceding lesson at the opening of each hour.
Build it in regularly.
Yes. After 5 or 6 lessons, start a broader review. Seize opportunities to connect to former lessons. Make the first review as soon as practicable. Don't wait too long.
Keep large masses of lessons ready for instant use.
Yes, for impromptu reviews. Start new questions or illustrations on old lessons to lure pupils into unsuspected reviews. Keep it fresh.
Sneaky. And the final review.
Should be searching, comprehensive, and masterful. The culmination.
Violations here seem obvious, but probably common.
Very common and disastrous.
Yeah.
The total neglect of reviews. The folly of the utterly poor and idle teacher. Wholly inadequate reviews. The hurried teacher who wants to finish the book, not get it through the mind.
Covering material versus ensuring learning.
Right. Delaying reviews until the end where lessons are long forgotten and becomes poor relearning. And degrading reviews to lifeless repetition of the same questions and answers.
Mind-numbing drills.
These result in pupils forever learning, but never able to come to a knowledge of the truth. A tragic outcome Gregory passionately warns against. It leaves the mind filled with fleeting shadows instead of solid understanding. Outro.
So we've journeyed through John Milton Gregory's The 7 Laws of Teaching, A profound 19th century text brought back to life, revealing timeless, universal principles about how we genuinely learn and teach.
It's been quite a journey. We've seen how Gregory dissects education into the development of powers and the acquisition of knowledge,
Right.
and how his 7 laws concerning the teacher, the learner, language, the lesson, the teaching process, the learning process, and review are not just suggestions, but natural laws of the mind itself.
Governing intellectual growth as predictably as physical laws if we understand and apply them.
That's his argument.
From the absolute necessity of a teacher, deeply, almost passionately knowing their subject, to the critical role of the learner's genuine attracted interest.
The precision and commonality of language, the art of explaining the unknown through the known.
And the vital importance of the inner self activities in both teaching and learning, culminating in the indispensable power of review.
These aren't just academic concepts or historical footnotes. They're blueprints for effective knowledge transfer and retention.
For anyone, really.
Whether you're in a formal classroom, a dynamic workplace, or simply engaged in your own personal quest for understanding, Gregory's work makes it unequivocally clear that true knowledge isn't passively received.
It's actively created.
Sculpted and internalized within your own mind. It's a journey of self-discovery, not just data accumulation.
So what stands out to you from this deep dive? How might applying just one of these laws, perhaps the imperative to truly know what you're trying to learn or teach?
Or the power of attracted attention.
Or the absolute necessity of review? How might that change the way you approach your next learning challenge? Or the way you share knowledge with others?
It really makes you think about your own process. And if, as Gregory suggests, the scientific spirit is the spirit of tireless inquiry, and if the true stimulant of the human mind is a question,
Then what is the next question you will passionately pursue to deepen your own understanding?
perhaps even turning an old, half-known truth into a brilliant new discovery. That's the challenge he leaves us with.